Our next rule is multiplying common bases, multiplying exponents with common bases. So we have a b and a b. Those are our common bases. We're multiplying them together, and it's a pretty easy trick. Here's how I would think about doing this one. If it's b to the third times b to the third, if I were to expand that and write it out, I would have b times b times b. That would be like one of the b to the thirds. We're going to multiply that by b times b times b. That would be like your other b to the third. So this is the same thing as those two. I'll erase it here so you can see it a little bit better. But this is b to the third. This is b to the third. And we're multiplying them together. So what does that mean? If we have basically 6 b's that are multiplying together all at once, wouldn't that be rewritten like this? As b to the 6th? Well, how can we remember that? How can we remember how to do it without writing it out every time? Well, the best way to think about it is when you are multiplying with common bases, you add your exponents. So for this one, if you're thinking about it, if I'm multiplying common bases, so for example, b to the a power times b to the c power, those are just variables. Your answer is always going to be b to the, and then whatever a plus c is, that's what your exponent is. We're just going to add them up. So for this one, we put in a 6. Over here on the next one, now we have y to the second and y to the fourth. First thing you need to check, make sure that they're the same base. The next thing you need to check is make sure that they're being multiplied. If they're the same base and they're being multiplied, all we have to do is add our exponents. So 2 plus 4 is 6. We'll get y to the 6th. So 6 would go there. Moving on. We still have the same number of bases, or I'm sorry, we have the same base in general, and our bases are just y's in this one. And we have exponents. My question to you is, what is the exponent on this one? Think about that for a second. If you said 1, you're right. If you don't see an exponent, you have to assume that it's a 1, not a 0. It's a 1. Same rule applies, even though there are 3 of them. We're just going to add up our exponents since they're all being multiplied and they're all the same bases. You've checked that. Our final answer is just going to be y to the 7th power. 3 plus 3 plus 1 is 7. On the next one, again, this is an exponent of 1. 1 plus 4 is 9. So x to the 9th is your final answer there. Okay, product rule. Now we're going into the product rule a little bit. We are kind of skipping around, but this is the product rule with positive exponents. Now, we kind of have to move things around a little bit here to make sure that we're multiplying things that have common bases, because those were the 2 things we said we had to check up here. Common base, first of all, and then we got to make sure that they're being multiplied. As I look onto this problem, here's what I'm looking for. First of all, do we have variables that are the same? The answer is yes. We have a v and a v. Then, my next thing that I'm looking for is, do we have addition, subtraction, multiplication, or division? And what I see is, I see only multiplication. Yeah, I see some minus signs, but those aren't really minus signs. Those are negatives. We have a -4 and a -6. So we don't have to worry about subtraction or addition. They're just multiplication. So this problem satisfies the 2 things we were talking about up here. First of all, multiplication. Second of all, making sure all of your variables are the same. So the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to separate this up a little bit. And I'm going to ask you guys if you think this is the same thing. If I rewrote this as -6 times v to the 7th times -4 times v to the 2nd, would you agree that that is the same thing? And you should. Here's why. The parentheses really don't matter. since everything's being multiplied together, we don't need to multiply this stuff together first. Order of operations says that if everything's being multiplied, you can go left to right, and you don't really need the parentheses anymore. So now we have all of these being multiplied together. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change it up a little bit more. I'm going to write it as -6 times -4 times v to the 7th times v to the 2nd. Now if you noticed, I'm going to try to show you here. The -6 was first, the v to the 7th was second, then the -4, then the v to the 2nd. I just changed it up, so the -6 was still first, the -4 was second, v to the 7th was third, and v to the 2nd was last. So as you can see, the only two that really got swapped around here were the middle two. Is that okay? Hopefully you said yes, because when you flip things around in multiplication, for example, 5 times 4 is the same as 4 times 5. You can do that. You can switch them around. That's the commutative property. So we can move those around. That's fine. I'm going to take off what I just wrote. So now we can do the -6 times the -4, and that would give us a positive 24. Then we can do our two variables, v to the 7th and v to the 2nd. Well, remember what we did up there when you have multiplication and you have the same bases, 7 plus 2, we're going to add them. That's what we're doing up here, right? 3, and 1, we added them to get 7. We're going to add those. 7 plus 2 is 9. Our final answer for this one is 24v to the 9th. Now, do you need to write out all this stuff all the time? I would say no. And I'll show you on the next problem that you don't really need to. The way that I think about this next problem is when I go through, I don't write out all of this stuff like we did up here. I like to just think about, let's start with the numbers. And by the way, you need to look and see, we have the same variable, yes, and the only thing in this problem that I see is multiplication. We have a -5 being multiplied by a u, multiplied by a 3, multiplied by a u. So we only have multiplication, and so this will work. I'm going to take the -5 and the 3 first, and I'm going to multiply those together to get -15. Then I'm going to focus on the u's. U to the 4th and u to the 2nd. When I am multiplying with common bases, I said I have to add my exponents. So it'll be u to the 6th